Srutakirti Prabhu joined ISKCON in the early days. He is a disciple of his divine grace Bhaktivedanta Swami Prabhupada. Prabhuji is very famous all over the world for giving Srila Prabhupada Kathas because he had a great fortune of traveling with Srila Prabhupada and being his personal servant. So Prabhuji has written this book, What is the Difficulty? And it is very famous book. The anecdotes and pastimes from that book are very sweet, very nice. So Prabhuji is very famous for this. He is invited all around the world. He resides now in Sri Vrindavan Dham, although originally he's from America. And then he resides here, and he's now, since the last couple of years, he has just been fully engaged in the service care of the devotees in reciting Srila Prabhupada's Katha. This is something he's been doing over the decades. So we have, this is one of the rare opportunities that we have to see Srila Prabhupada's personal servant, to hear from him directly. It is our great fortune today, and we shall welcome Prabhuji by loudly chanting Hare Krishna Mantra once. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Hare. Loving stuff. I think that even going like one of the quantities. So yes, some little more I sing on the shake about Prabhuji's introduction. He's the longest serving Prabhupada's secretary and servant, and also one of the board members of this ISKCON now. So welcome Prabhuji. You get some Prabhupada Katha.
Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna.
Thank you all for being here this evening. Did you all go home early from today?
What did they do today? Because we
Everyone is recovered nicely from Hurry Ram. The one timer. Namo Vishnu Padaya Krishna Prasthaya Kintavai Srimati Bhaktivedanta Swami Namade Namaste Saraswati Lord of Anandakshan. Here we say Sasandhavani Koskijo. Panchakopa Turivishtakri Pasindhu Gachapa Tanapalpa Yo Vaishnavyo Namo Maha. Hare Krishna. So we're very happy you're here in Vrindavan, Ramareti. You know, Srila Prabhupada had the first Kartik festival. It was 1972. 52 years ago, Prabhupada stayed Radha Damodar temple. At that time, there was no Krishna Balaram Mandir. Prabhupada's rooms, which are still there, Radha Damodar temple. Mm-hmm. I became his personal servant just after Janmashtami, 1972, that same year. So in September 1972 at New Vrindavan, I became Prabhupada's servant, somehow or other. Prabhupada, even before September, in August of 1972, Prabhupada wrote a letter, and he was telling one of his disciples, I'm going to Vrindavan for Kartik. He said, and I will spend the whole month there. So Prabhupada was also, he was very excited, the idea of going to Vrindavan for Kartik. At that time, we didn't offer the lamps, the deeps. We didn't do that at that time. But what we did was we heard Srila Prabhupada. Morning class, Srimad Bhagavatam, and in the afternoon, class. What was the class in the afternoon? Anyone know? Oh, you should know all these classes. You should have heard all of these classes. I recorded those classes for you. Nectar of Devotion, Bhakti Rasamrita Sindhu. Prabhupada went there to Radha Damodar temple, where we have Bhajan Kutir, Samadhi, and Srila Rupa Goswami. So he was very eager to go there and to speak Nectar of Devotion, Bhakti Rasamrita Sindhu. This was 1972. At that time, maybe 40 devotees came to Vrindavan for that festival. That was a lot. 40 devotees, 1972. And all those devotees, they came from the West. They came from USA, America, Canada. They came from England. They came from Europe. When I became Prabhupada's servant, of course, I took my first flight for first time on an airplane. We were traveling from Pittsburgh to Dallas, Texas. It was still September. Kartik didn't begin until October 15th, almost the same as this year. It began October 15th, 1972. But when Prabhupada was on the airplane, he always sat at the window seat. When I became his servant, and just like so many of you now, you go to different retreats. How many of you have been at retreats, ISKCON retreats? Many have been different retreats. We have japa retreats. We have Vrindavan retreats where we teach Bhakti Vedanta, Bhakti Vaibhava, Bhakti Shastri. So many different retreats are going on. But back in 1970s, we didn't have retreats. We didn't have discussions. We didn't have japa retreats. We didn't have disciple courses. We have GPC courses. We have Diksha Guru courses that they go through. Everyone, we have all these different classes. Only classes we had was Srimad Bhagavatam in the morning, Bhagavad Gita in the evening. And we call that ISKCON sandwich. You all know what a sandwich is, yes? The 2 slices of bread, and then you have inside, you have all the food. So we call the classes ISKCON sandwich. We have Srimad Bhagavatam class in the morning, Bhagavad Gita class in the evening, and then during the day you had all your service. That was ISKCON sandwich. So when I became Prabhupada's servant, I had been in New Vrindavan for 16 months. Well, I'm from a city. I'm from Philadelphia. That was at the time the 3rd biggest city in the USA, Philadelphia. So I was a city boy. And I went to New Vrindavan. I didn't know anything about farms. I'd never seen a cow until I was 19 years old and went to New Vrindavan. First time I saw a cow. Just see how Prabhupada has changed our lives. I didn't know how important cow was. So then in New Vrindavan, I was milking cows every day, 5 cows I would milk twice a day, making fences, baling hay, everything. And then by magic, I became Prabhupada's servant. His secretary, Shyama Sundar. Some of you should know Shyama Sundar. He wrote the book Chasing Rhinos with the Swami. 3 volumes, one wonderful reading, so exciting. So he was Prabhupada's secretary. We had very distinct services. He was secretary, so he arranged all the travel. He read Prabhupada all the letters every day. He typed all the responses every day. That was all the secretary. Me, he said, I was Prabhupada's servant. And he said to me, your service, when Prabhupada rings the bell, you go in the room. He said, when Prabhupada sits in the airplane, you sit next to him. When Prabhupada sits in the car, you sit next to him. That's all I knew I was supposed to do. Then he said, do you know how to use a tape recorder? That's like asking that boy there, that young man right there, if he knows how to use a smartphone. Of course he knows how to use a smartphone, better than all of you. right? So I said, yes, I know how to use it. He said, whenever Prabhupada speaks, you record. That's all I was told. But my main services were massage and cooking. We went into the room the first morning. Prabhupada was in New Vrindavan. 5 o'clock in the morning, we went into the room. I had heard the evening before, you're going to be Prabhupada's servant. So now the next morning we go into the room, Prabhupada's sitting on asana on the floor with a little desk, just a table in front of him where he would translate Srimad Bhagavatam. Kirtanananda Swami introduced me. He said, this is Srutakirti. He's going to be your servant. Now, one thing you have to understand, Prabhupada didn't ask for servants. His servant had left a few weeks before. And Prabhupada didn't say, where's my servant? Who's going to take care of me? This is not pure devotee. Pure devotee never asks for anything except one thing. Hey, Prabhupada said, I asked my Guru Maharaj one question. What's that question? Ah, very good. You all know that. You should all know that's the only question. Only question one disciple asks, how can I serve you? Right? This is the question from disciple. So now we're in the room and Kirtananda said, this is Srutakirti. He's going to be your servant. And then Kirtananda said, he's a very good cook, but he doesn't know how to massage. Prabhupada said, anyone can massage. That wasn't true. Prabhupada was very particular about massage. Every day I massage Prabhupada, twice a day. Noontime, 11:30 in the morning, was full massage with oil. What do we use on his head? Sandalwood oil. And on his whole body, mustard oil. So why sandalwood oil on the head? Keeps a cool head. Prabhupada said, keep a cool head. Once a reporter, woman, this was the 70s. In the 70s in the United States especially, we had a thing called women's liberation. Very, very big. Women want to be liberated. Do everything a man can do. They could do it. And they wanted to do it. So this reporter, she was a woman. They deliberately, when they arranged the interview with Prabhupada, they deliberately arranged all the people involved were women. So the person working the camera was a woman. The one working the audio was a woman. The one doing the interview was a woman. They wanted to show this Swami from India. Women can do anything a man can do. Because Prabhupada would say, women should be under the protection in the youth of her father, and then of her husband, and then in old age of her son. So Prabhupada would say this so many times. So sometimes the women, they become very upset. So this woman, she's interviewing Prabhupada, and she said, why do you shave your head? Prabhupada didn't care for that question. That means you have no real interest in understanding about God, about philosophy. You ask, why do I shave my head? So she said, why do you shave your head? Prabhupada looked at her. She had mini skirt, legs, all her legs showing up to here. Prabhupada looked at her. He said, why do you shave your legs? He said, keep a cool head, warm legs, Prabhupada. He mentioned my book. What is the difficulty? I wrote that book. It took me a very long time to compose that book. I'm not a writer by nature. I'm not an author. But somehow or other it happened. But I could never think of a title. And it, when I used to put the stories online, it was called Srila Prabhupada Vacha. But it was more than that. But one day I woke up early in the morning and I saw the title. And the reason it's the title is because it's the very first words that Prabhupada said to me. If you happen to have read my book, you would know. You see, I met the devotees in April 1971. April 22nd, I met the devotees with my friend. And we were both searching for God. But in the West, we had no idea about God. Mostly, any idea was impersonalism and voidism. There is no God. Everybody's God. I remember in college, there was one big sign that said, God is love, love is God. What does that mean even? So nobody knew what God was. They were God as energy. But no, what problem? God is the energetic, not the energy. Energy coming from God. See, we learned everything from Srila Prabhupada. So we were searching for God. And these devotees, they were at the park. Every day the devotees would go out and chant. Every day, 12 hours a day. That was what we did in those years. Everyone, so many people came to the temple. So we saw those devotees and they were chanting. I didn't want to go because I thought they looked very crazy. They all had shaved heads and this bright white tilak. So we had no chandan. We didn't have actual chandan. We used fuller's earth. Fuller's earth you will get at the hardware store. It's what you repair the walls with, like when you put up paneling and you cover with this white pasty powder. And that's what we wore. It stayed on all day. From 4 in the morning till 10 o'clock at night, it looked the same, like you painted your garment. And everybody wore yellow. Like it's the bhaktas now in our temples, the bhaktas, they wear yellow. Everybody had yellow because they bought the cloth at the cloth shop, big roll of cloth, polyester, synthetic cloth. So the women had yellow saris, the men had yellow dhotis, and they all had the sash. Because whatever Prabhupada did, that's what we did. So my friend convinced me, let's go see them. No. They're from a different planet. And they were from a different planet. They were from the spiritual world. So then we went, and immediately I went to this one man. I was 19 years old. He was 20. Maybe he was in the temple for 2 months, 3 months. Krishna book had come out 6 months before. So I said, you know God? And he's very happy. He said, yes. He told me God's name. He told me his address, his mother's name, his father's name, what he ate, what he did, everything about God. This was Srila Prabhupada, what he brought to the whole world. We knew nothing about Krishna in the West. Prabhupada gave us everything. So then, 3 months later, I went to New York City to get initiated by Srila Prabhupada in Brooklyn Temple. I was Brooklyn Temple, Henry Street. And we drove from New Vrindavan. It was about a 10-hour drive from New Vrindavan. And we went to New York City. We went to the temple, like 5 of us. Again, I was with Kirtanananda Swami. He was Prabhupada's first sannyasi, one of the very first disciples. The first person that Srila Prabhupada taught how to cook was Kirtanananda. And he taught me. That's why he said he's a good cook, because Kirtanananda taught me how to cook. So now we went to the temple there. The temple room was not very big. Whole temple room was smaller than the Mandir here, Krishna Balaram Mandir. They had Radha Govinda, beautiful Radha Govinda deities. Prabhupada is in the back of the Vyasasan. And from the back where Prabhupada sat, there was no one. So Prabhupada always had a view of the deities. And the men would be on one side, and the women were on the other side. And I was with Kirtanananda. So he would come right here by Prabhupada's Vyasasan. So even though I was just a young boy, a bhakta, I got to be right here by Srila Prabhupada because I was with him. So association, very important. Who you associate, because I was with him, I got to be by Srila Prabhupada. Even though I was just young boy in the temple for 3 months. So of course, kirtan was going on. The temple room was packed with a few hundred devotees. They came from all over the US because Prabhupada was there. He initiated 10 devotees a day for 10 days. That was a lot. And he would chant on all the beads in the morning. We had to make our japa beads. There was no store. There was no temple stores. There was nothing. So again, you would buy the beads at the craft shop. And then we learned how to tie them, make them tight, and put it on the doorknob, put the one bead on, and then you'd knot. And we made our neck beads. They're not Tulsi. Prabhupada said, good as Tulsi. This was Prabhupada. Very, very kind. So the kirtan is going on and the temple room's packed with devotees. And it's July, very hot, just like here, hot and humid. And I'm standing and everyone's a kirtan. And everyone's packed in. And then the kirtan ended and Prabhupada started chanting Premadwani prayers. So now everyone has to get down, offer obeisances. Nobody just stood there like this in those days. Oh, everybody offering obeisances. Prabhupada was saying the prayers. And I was right there, and I'm down. And I'm seeing Prabhupada for the first day. And I just wanted to keep looking at him. Prabhupada's face, his eyes. We would see Prabhupada's eyes and he loves Krishna. And his eyes were always sparkling. They were like diamonds. They were always wet, Prabhupada's eyes. And you could see his effulgence. It was just like he was in color. Everything else was like black and white. He shone. So we finished the prayers. And now everybody starts offering obeisances. Namo Vishnu Padaya Krishna. But I was eager to get up and look at Srila Prabhupada. So I'm going, Namo Vishnu Padaya Krishna Padaya. And I finished quicker than everyone around me. And then I went to sit up. But everybody else was still down. And when I went to sit up, I sat on the head of a brahmachari behind me because we were all so tight. So he wasn't very happy that I sat on his head and he pushed me. And when he pushed me, I flew on the Prabhupada's Vyasasan like I was diving for his lotus feet. I wasn't. But that's what it looked like. I dove and I went right on Prabhupada by his lap. And Prabhupada looked and said, what is the difficulty? Was it? He says that many times. If you look it up in database, what is the difficulty? Prabhupada would say this Krishna consciousness is so nice. We chant, we dance, we take prasadam. What is the difficulty? But then he said it a different way when he said to me, wondering why I flew onto his feet. So that was my very first meeting and his very first instruction. What is the difficulty? So then when I became a servant, now it's New Vrindavan, this is 16 months later. Now I have my Brahmin initiation. I'm cooking in the kitchen. So they bring me into the room, Prabhupada's room, and he's sitting on the floor. And after he introduced me, then Prabhupada reached under his desk and he grabbed his lota. Everybody know what a lota is? You don't have lotas anymore here. Prabhupada, I didn't know what a lota was. I heard about Prabhupada's lota. Prabhupada's lota was famous because when I joined, April 1971, Prabhupada had gone to Russia. You all know Prabhupada spent 1 week in Russia, huh? And he initiated one person. Imagine, he planted the seed of devotion in one young man. And from that one person that Prabhupada planted the seed, now there are tens of thousands of Russian devotees, just by Srila Prabhupada giving Krishna to one person. So when he was there, in those days when I was young, we would hear Russia, communist Russia. They don't believe in God. And we would hear in America that everything was difficult. You stood in line to get milk. You stood in line to get flour, atta. You stood in line to get rice, everything. And it was true. So while Prabhupada was there, it was very little for him to get to eat vegetarian food. It was potatoes. And he got rice. So the one day, Shyama-Sundar and his godbrother, they went out to get. And they got rice, they got milk, and they got sugar. So they came back to Prabhupada. And Prabhupada said, very good. We'll make kheer, make sweet rice. They had like Sunday feast to make sweet rice. So after they cooked it in the pot, when they went to transfer it, they didn't have enough transfer containers. So Prabhupada said, use the lota. So I heard that story. When I joined the temple, that's all we would do would hear. Prabhupada said this, Prabhupada did this, Prabhupada went there. So we heard that they put the sweet rice in Prabhupada's lota. Time, place, and circumstance. One of the things we learned very early on. Time, place, and circumstance. So now Prabhupada reached under his desk and he grabbed that lota, traveling around the world with him. The transcendental lota, bell metal lota. So he grabbed it and he stood up and started walking to the door. And he gave me my very first instruction as his personal servant. He said, follow me. That's all you have to do, your whole existence, life after life, you follow your guru. So the very first thing he said to me, follow me. But it was literal. But we can see things, many levels. So I understood, follow him. So we walked out the door. We walked a few steps. He said, wait here. I stopped. And then he went off behind the trees. And then he came back. And he handed me the lota. And he said, wash it, soil and water, dirt and water. Wash it, put it back under my desk. So my very first service So Prabhupada was cleaning his lotus after he used the bathroom. This is all very instructive. This is our business. We're all just servants. Prabhu, he introduced me properly. He said he was Prabhupada's servant. When I'm in the USA and they speak to crowds, they go to university, colleges, schools, they'll say it's Srutakirti Das. He traveled with Srila Prabhupada for 2.5 years. He was his secretary. Because they don't like to say servant. No one wants to be a servant. Everyone wants to be master. That's why we're here. We wanted to be master. We came here with that desire. So when they would say that he was Prabhupada's secretary, I'd say, no, I was his servant. I was not his secretary. But this is our business, servant. Before even I was his servant, I was with Prabhupada in his garden in Los Angeles. He had a nice garden, just like here at Krishna Balaram Temple. Prabhupada has his garden. So in Los Angeles, New Dwarka, he also had a garden way back, the original garden for Prabhupada. And Prabhupada said it was his favorite place in the whole world because it had Tulsi all around. There were Tulsi plants. He said it was his favorite place, this garden. This was 3 months. I went there to get Brahmin initiation. Los Angeles was 5,000 kilometers from New Vrindavan. It took us 4 days in a car, in a van, with no windows, cargo van. We drove across the country, 5 of us. So every day I got to go into the garden. And the first day, there were just 4 or 5 of us, brahmacharis, who would go into the garden and kirtanananda. Again, because I was with him, I got to go into the garden. And Prabhupada would sit. He had a nice little asana, a trellis over him with some vines growing up. And we would just go in there, offer obeisances, and Prabhupada would sit with his bead bag. You never started a conversation with Srila Prabhupada. You waited. In fact, it's one of the rules. You never start a conversation with your spiritual master. If he wants, he'll talk. If he doesn't want to talk, nobody talks. And that's what it was like. Sometimes you just sit there and he'd have his hand in his bead bag, and you wouldn't hear him chanting, but he'd be chanting. And then sometimes he would just say, we were all young, we didn't know anything. One day he looked at us all, 5 young men. He looked at us. He said, what color is Krishna? This was my first experience with Prabhupada asking questions. And as soon as he asked it, I thought, that's a funny question. And I'm thinking, Prabhupada asks trick questions. He always asks trick questions. He liked to see his disciples confused. He said, what color is Krishna? And right away I knew I'm not raising my hand because something's funny here. So one boy raised, Prabhupada, it's described in Krishna book. He was a smart boy. He's going to quote Shastra. It's described in Krishna book that he's darkish like the monsoon cloud, blackish like the monsoon rain cloud. Prabhupada went, I knew it. Prabhupada said, Krishna's blue like the sky. He said, that's why the sky is blue, because it's reflecting Krishna's bodily effulgence. One statement by Srila Prabhupada, you could see Krishna all the time. This is Guru. This was Srila Prabhupada. He could say one thing. Everybody looks at the sky all the time. It's not so blue here in Delhi, Vrindavan area. sometimes gray, sometimes orange. During lockdown, it was blue. You actually saw blue sky. That's Krishna's effulgence. It's his reflection of his body. Imagine how easy it is to know Krishna, how easy it is to see Krishna. That's what Prabhupada did. Another time he was sitting, Prabhupada always sat very straight, never slouched, always sat straight. He went, Govindam Harikurusham Talaham Bhajami. He said, everyone is servant. Servant a dog, in the US especially. Now here in India, you've become very expert serving dogs. In Delhi, I see pet shops. You'll buy all these wonderful things for your pets. So you take it. In India, they take them very nicely. You say you serve your dog, you serve your family, you serve your wife, you serve your boss. Everyone is servant. He said, but our pride, we're servants of Krishna. He said, that's our pride. We know devotee, we always hear devotees humble. First business, you want to be a devotee, right? Vaishnava. You have to learn humility. But here Prabhupada's saying we're proud to be servants of Krishna. We could see that with Srila Prabhupada. When he walked, he looked like a king. At the same time, he looked so humble. You would see him before the deities. His head was always, he never, on the morning walk, he didn't look this way, that way, didn't look down, focused. Always Prabhupada was focused, attentive. People have asked me to be a servant, what does it require? I said attention. You have to be attentive at every moment. That's one thing I learned with Srila Prabhupada. You don't, not allowed to space out. Space out, I mean Maya. You space out, you're in Maya. To be a servant, very attentive. And when you stop becoming attentive, you'll lose that service. Very quickly, you lose that service. They said I was with them a long time, 2.5 years. First time I was with them, I was a brahmachari. For 16 months, I traveled with them as a brahma. I went around the world 2 times, 3 times, 16 months. And then I left. I got married. I was gone away from him for 8 months. 6 of those months, I went down to Caracas, Venezuela, with my wife. And I was the only Brahmin in the temple back then. Mostly, they were all bhaktas. What's his name? Havi, or Guru, Hasta Guru. They were all bhaktas, bhaktins. So I went down there with my godbrother, Chiksikananda. I was there for 6 months. And then I left. So during that time, I got to know all those devotees very well. So then again, I became Prabhupada's servant in New Vrindavan. This time I was Grahasta, very white. Service, everything was the same. When I joined Prabhupada back in New Vrindavan, the first day I was with him, it was just like those 8 months didn't exist. He never asked me one question about what was Caracas like. What did you, nothing. I was his servant. That was it. Did my service. After 8 months away. And then, so we left New Vrindavan, we came right to India. And then gradually, this time of year is coming up, Prabhupada went to Caracas, Venezuela. He made one trip. He went to Los Angeles, then he went to Mexico City, then he went to Caracas. So I knew everyone in Caracas. I had just been there a few months before. But now I was with Prabhupada. I was Prabhupada's servant again. So I was very happy. And of course, I was proud. You say, proud to be Krishna's servant. I was proud to be Prabhupada's servant. So I was very eager to get to the temple. We get to the temple, and Prabhupada comes and he sits in the Vyasasana they had for him, and I'm standing right there. Prabhupada sits down, and I'm looking out into the crowd, seeing it with this godbrother, because I was with Prabhupada. I felt very happy, very proud. And while I'm standing looking at my godbrothers and godsisters, something hit me in the head. Prabhupada took his socks off, rolled them into a ball, and threw them at me because I wasn't doing my service. That was my job. Take care of Prabhupada, take his glasses out, open the Bhagavatam, grab his cane, make sure the water is there. This is what it means to be attentive in your service. But I forgot all of that because I was busy being proud of my service that I wasn't even doing. And Prabhupada threw his socks on my head. So I had interesting encounters with Srila Prabhupada at the Vyasasana. From Mexico City, Prabhupada we flew Mexico City to Caracas. It was a few-hour flight. So Prabhupada had, in the temple, Prabhupada, we always knew what he did. But when Prabhupada went outside of the temple, you never knew what was going to happen and how we would interact or not interact with the people outside in the karmi world. So one thing, whenever Prabhupada traveled, what did he bring with him? Besides his disciples and his books, prasadam. Always traveled with prasadam. Every time we went on the plane, we had prasadam. And as soon as those lights would go out, fasten your seatbelt light would go out. That means you could put your table down. So that meant for Prabhupada, time for prasadam. So on this flight, one flight from Mexico City to Caracas is like 10 o'clock in the morning. And we're sitting, Prabhupada's at the window seat, I'm in the middle, and next to me is his secretary, who's Paramahamsa Swami. And we're all in dirty kurta, shaved heads as usual. So the light goes out, and Prabhupada looks at me. He didn't even have to speak. He would just look at me, and you should know what to do. Right here, Vrindavan, Ramanriti, or Krishna Balaram Mandir, Prabhupada called me in the room one afternoon. He said, first-class servant knows what to do without being asked. Imagine. He's telling me, his personal servant, you're supposed to know what to do. I don't have to tell you. That's how regulated Srila Prabhupada was. You should always know what to do. You should know what temperature the water should be for his bath. You should know how to cook, what to cook, know how to massage, know everything. He said, second-class servant, you tell him what to do and he does it. Imagine. That's not first class, that's second class. And third class servant, he said, you tell him what to do and he doesn't do it. Or he does it begrudgingly. Prabhupada used that word, begrudgingly. It means you don't even want to do it, but you'll do it because you have to. So he said that to me. So, anyway, we had this bag of prasadam. So Prabhupada's at the window seat. He looks at me, I knew what to do. He didn't have to say, okay, I'm ready to take prasadam. I know it is because that light went out. It means it's time for prasadam. So I took this package out of the bag. It was aluminum foil, and inside was mori, puffed rice. One of Prabhupada's favorites from when he was a little boy. He said puffed rice, one of his favorite preparations. And he said puffed rice is innocent. You know what that means? Puffed rice is innocent. It means you can eat it late at night and it won't disturb your stomach. Very easy to digest, very light, innocent, Prabhupada said. So I opened up the foil. There's no spoon, nothing, just the puffed rice and peanuts. I opened it up and I put it on Prabhupada's table. Maybe you've seen video, you can see Prabhupada chewing. He chewed very, very well. He would push the prasadam in his mouth. So he's taking for about 5 minutes or so. And then he looked at me, he said, okay. Okay means I'm finished, the rest is for you. So he ate half of it. This again, he could have eaten all of it, but he ate half of it because that's all there was. We're his disciples. His duty is to take care of us. Our duty is to serve him. His duty reciprocates. He takes care. So he said, so I put it on my table, and I put his table up, and I separated it into two piles, and I ripped it in half, and I gave half to Paramahamsa Swami. So now Prabhupada's sitting there quietly, and Paramahamsa and I were eating Prabhupada's remnants. Maha Prasadam we're eating. Yeah, every day we eat Prabhupada's remnants. Greedy is very important in Krishna consciousness. Sometimes you have to be greedy. So we were greedy for Prabhupada's remnants. So now we're eating Prabhupada's puffed rice, modi, prasadam. And this stewardess is walking down the aisle. And of course, we look very different than everyone. And she stops right in front of us. And she reaches past Paramahamsa, puts her hand in my plate of puffed rice, and she grabs a handful and she puts it in her mouth. And she looks at me. She said, this is very good. What is it? It's puffed rice. She took Prabhupada's Mahaprasadam. And Paramahamsa, he's still eating. And Prabhupada, he's also not paying attention. She's talking to me. And then she said, oh, why are you eating now? And we said, well, we have a special diet. We're all vegetarian. And she said, can I get you anything? She said, if I like, I can get something from first class. So I looked at Prabhupada. He said, hot milk. So I said, well, 3 hot milks. Whatever Prabhupada did, that's what we do. At least when it came to taking prasadam. Not getting up 1 o'clock in the morning, that we didn't do. And she said, would you like anything else? I can get fruit, cheese, bread. I looked at Prabhupada, he said, okay. I said, yes, we'll all have. So she went back up to the first class area, the kitchen, and I turned to Prabhupada. I said, Prabhupada, that was amazing. The fact that she took food off of my plate and ate it. No one does that. So I said, Prabhupada, that was amazing. Prabhupada didn't answer it. He said, women have natural tendency to serve. Bhagavatam, Prabhupada said it. Easier for a woman to become Krishna conscious. Look at all the men sitting up here in the front, women very kindly sitting in the back there, very humbly. They can become Krishna conscious. Easier, Prabhupada said. So he didn't answer what I said. I said it was amazing that she took your Maha Prasadam. We would die for that prasadam. When I would go out with the plate, the devotees, they'd fight one another, try to get to the Mahaprasadam. So she came back, and Now she gives us she cut the fruit, everything. She was such a nice young lady. So anyway, that was one of the most mystical things I ever saw with Srila Prabhupada, was this woman taking the prasadam without being asked. So I told that story once many years ago, almost 30 years ago, in the 90s, in Los Angeles, New York. And after I told it, I spoke for like 2 hours. And after I was done, one devotee boy came up to me. He said, "Can I tell you a story?" I said, "Okay." He said, "I go out with a group of devotees, and they would go Mexico, South America." He said, "We would go from town to town, village to village, do Harinam in the town square, and then we go out in our Jeeps, the four-wheel drives, and go to different farms, ranches, and try to distribute Prabhupada's books." So he said, one day we were out somewhere in Brazil. He said, I'm deep in the jungles, and we found one village area, and we chanted. He said, then I got in my Jeep and driving. So I stopped at this one residence, this one farmhouse. He said, I get out and I knock on the door. And a woman answers. And she says, Hare Krishna. And he was in shock, because no one had ever been down there. No one had ever distributed Krishna anywhere there. And she invited him into the house. And he sees picture of Prabhupada, picture of deities, bunch of and he said, you're a devotee. She said, yes. He said, well, how did you meet the devotees? She said, well, I was an airline stewardess. She was the woman that took the prasadam from Srila Prabhupada 20 years before. So after that, she became a devotee just by taking Srila Prabhupada's Mahaprasadam. She was devotee. She's been to Vrindavan. She became a devotee decades ago, just by seeing Srila Prabhupada tasting this prasadam. So we're all very, very fortunate. All day long, every minute, Srila Prabhupada has given us Krishna. Looking in the sky, you see Krishna. We have here, you have this flower here, right in MBT, we have it, jasmine. They're called night queen. Night queen, it's called in English. It's when the sun goes down, you can start to smell this jasmine flower. Very special, small flower, very, very fragrant. And the fragrance comes out at night, and in the morning again, it's gone. So I would give Prabhupada massage every evening, wherever we went, around 10 o'clock at night. That massage, there was no oil. And Prabhupada would sit up in the bed. Sometimes he would lie down in the bed on his back, massage his legs and his feet. So there in New Georgia, when it was the season, you could smell that jasmine. So I would go pick it. I would pick a bunch of the jasmine flowers, and I would bring it to Srila Prabhupada and put it on the pillow. So he would lie there as I would give him a massage. And he had his head just so he could always smell the flowers. So the one night I'm massaging his feet, and Prabhupada, and he said, this is Krishna. Not difficult to see Krishna. The devotee sees Krishna everywhere. That's what it means. Everything. That fragrance, that's Krishna. That beauty of the flower, that's Krishna. The devotee sees Krishna. So this is how the Guru, this is how Srila Prabhupada trained us to see Krishna. Every moment you can see Krishna. And then you can see Krishna face to face. You know that one was in those days, Prabhupada would give a lecture, especially in India, to the Indian community. So sometimes they would be a little arrogant. So Prabhupada, at the end, he's any questions? So this one Indian man, he said, so have you seen God? And Prabhupada said, well, if you move over, I can see him. You're in the way. The deity was the ultimate. So he said, yes, I can. He said, but you have to move out of the way. I can see this. So Prabhupada had a very nice sense of humor. On the airplane, Air India, I was on an Air India flight last month. I think it was the same plane that had Srila Prabhupada on it. It was so old. Everything was vibrating in this plane, everything inside. It didn't matter, but the screens didn't work. It was a very old air. Anyway, Air India was very nice then. And we were flying from Delhi to Mumbai. And we're sitting, and Prabhupada didn't fly first class, he flew coach. He flew first class once, twice. He said, what's the use? He said, we don't need all this space. He said, we don't eat their food. We don't drink their drinks. He said, why pay so much for a ticket? They would sit in the coach part. So in this Air India flight, we're sitting down and we're waiting as people are boarding. And they had music playing. And it was Indian classical music. It was tabla, sitar, very nice. And Prabhupada's at the window seat and I'm sitting next to him. You know, when you have your hand in your bead bag because you want to look like you're a devotee, even though he knows you're nonsense. And we're sitting and the music's playing. And Prabhupada looked at me. He said, do you like this music? And I got frightened. Nobody was chanting Hare Krishna, so before I could say anything, he looked, he said, it's very nice. I said, yes, Prabhupada. So I told that story once. Next to me was my godbrother, who also traveled with Prabhupada at a different time. He said, Prabhupada did the same thing with me. He said, we're sitting in the plane and that music's playing, and Prabhupada looked at me, he said, do you like this music? I said, yes, Prabhupada. Prabhupada looked, he said, it's sense gratification music. Whatever you did, you're wrong. That was Prabhupada. That's how he trained us. He has to tell you, even if you're right, you're wrong. Another servant, Prabhupada asked for a book on his bookshelf. Prabhupada would get me this book. And this one, Prabhupada said, no, not that, the blue one. And he's looking, he couldn't see. And he said, this one? He said, this one here, Prabhupada, this green one? Prabhupada said, yes, the blue one. So he's calling it green, and Prabhupada said, no, it's blue. If I say it's blue, it's blue. Doesn't matter what you say. And morning walk at Mexico City. See, I never asked Prabhupada a question. And very rarely would I respond to a question because I knew I'm going to be wrong. And he's on this walk in beautiful garden, botanical garden in Mexico City. And all the devotees are there, the GBC sannyasis there, the big book distributors and the temple president, and me holding the microphone, servant walking. And Prabhupada stopped. And there was this big tree, but it was dead, just branches, no leaves. Prabhupada stopped. He said, why has the tree died? So, first, sannyasi, big sannyasi, GBC, he said that Prabhupada probably became diseased. Prabhupada shook his head. So then another devotee raises his hand. So Prabhupada became old and died. Prabhupada shook his head. We covered everything with birth, old age, disease, and death. That already covered disease. So now everyone's wondering. I'm next to Prabhupada for 2 years, next to Prabhupada. And I'm thinking, what's the answer? What does he want to hear? What's he teaching us? Our whole lives, what is he teaching? I'm thinking, what does he want? So I said, Prabhupada, the spirit soul is gone. Prabhupada said, yes. Not that I saw it that way, but I knew that he saw it that way. And that's our business, is to understand how the devotee sees things, not how you see things. We don't see clearly. Unless one understands they're not this body, whatever you see, it's just illusion. One has to come to that platform. Tattva Brahma Jigyasa. You have to come to the Brahminical platform, not this body. And Prabhupada was always trying to show us, and the morning walks were very good. Everything was good. If you were with him, you learned something. In Hawaii, you walked out the door. In Hawaii, the property, they have lychee, mango trees, still there. Now they're so old. Still they give mangoes and lychee sometimes. So Prabhupada's walking, and he looks at the ground. And on the ground, there's bird poo. Know what poo is? Bird droppings on the ground. And Prabhupada looks. He looks at us. He says, what does this mean? In other words, you see bird poo, and what does it mean? He said it means that bird goes there every night and sleeps, just like you go in your room every night and sleeps. He said the bird's doing the same thing you're doing. The only difference is in this human form of life, you can become Krishna conscious. Otherwise, you and the bird aren't any different. He finds a nice spot, he makes a little nest, he sleeps there. He's got his family there. The lady bird lays eggs, they raise them, he goes, everything's the same. And he would show us this over and over again. What's the difference between you and this animal? Unless you're practicing Krishna consciousness, nothing. Maybe you sleep in a nice bed with silver posts going up. Sleeping is the same. When you come to India, you realize that. You'll see, you can sleep anywhere. Once you're sleeping, doesn't matter. Doesn't matter. So you can only eat 2 chapatis, whoever you want, 2 chapatis, 4 chapatis, 6, whatever it is. Everything's same. But we're very fortunate. Srila Prabhupada has given us Krishna. We were on one morning walk. This was San Francisco, another park. Prabhupada would walk in the parks, and he would walk on the beach. He didn't walk at shopping centers. He didn't go to the mall to walk around, see what was for sale. No, he liked to walk in nature. Krishna, mode of goodness. We say, had a country mode of goodness. Cities passion. What's ignorance? Brothels. Ignorance. So we're again on a morning walk, and it's up on the hill. And in the distance, you could see the city, San Francisco, the big skyscrapers. What did Prabhupada call skyscrapers? Skyscraper. Scrap is an English word. It means trash. It means junk, refuse, scrap. So Prabhupada called them skyscrapers. There's nothing, pigeonholes, he would say, live like a pigeon. These big skyscrapers. So you could see them more walking. And then Prabhupada stopped at this one spot. And it was a children's playground. And it had a gate, an entrance, and it had a trellis thing. And it said above it, it said, Fantasyland. Fantasyland. And Prabhupada stopped. And he had his cane and he said, Children's Fantasyland. And then he pointed to the city in the distance and he said, Adult Fantasyland. This is what it was when you were at the things that we thought were so amazing. He was not impressed. Not impressed. I was with him on a train from Zurich, Switzerland. Train ride from Prabhupada went to St. Moritz. 1970, St. Moritz was the most famous ski resort in the world and the most expensive ski resort in the world. It was April, and somehow or other, Prabhupada was recommended to go there to rest for a week. In the Alps, in the ski resort area. He was shown a postcard of the mountains, the Alps, wild flowers all around. Must have been taken in June or July, not in April. So we were in Zurich, and it's cold. It was winter time still. April in Zurich, Switzerland, it was winter. And Prabhupada got on the train with myself and one other young brahmachari. His name was Jai Hari. And the three of us traveled on this very scenic train. It went all through the mountains. And we took the train just last year. My wife and I, we went there for 50th anniversary. So we were on the same train. Beautiful ride, beautiful mountains, everything nice. So we're on the train. And it's snowing out. A blizzard. Snow everywhere. So you could just see snow all up in the mountains and the trees, everywhere, snow. And Prabhupada's sitting at the window seat. And Jai Hari and I were sitting right next to Prabhupada. And we're looking at the mountains and the snow, and we're thinking, everything so incredible, so beautiful. Snow and it very beautiful. So we're looking and we're enjoying like anything. We're not even thinking Prabhupada's right next to us. We're covered. And we're looking, and then Prabhupada turns to me. He said, what do they call this place? I said, St. Moritz, St. Moritz. He said, they may call it St. Moritz. I call it St. Hellish. He said, not a living thing to be seen anywhere, everywhere, just snow, no leaves, no living thing anywhere. So then we both turned away and started chanting Hare Krishna. The devotees, they asked Prabhupada, is there snow in the spiritual world? He said, yes, but it's not cold. Yeah. So I think we have a few minutes left. This is evening programs are very, I don't have my phone with me. Anyway, I think we have some time if you want time for a few questions, or should we stop here? If anyone has any questions, comments, Prabhu's, Bhattaji's, thank you all for being here. Yes.
Well, thank you in that. You were doing a Srila Prabhupada, sometimes we got to praise God personally. Sometimes we also pick it up personally. You get but what does it mean? We are picking up our free or superiors in one way, because I see for some reason and got so much so that are just out there. So I see every day you don't want to get separate. Going through some like what does it mean with such kind of conflicts of this?
So your question is?
We also do such kind of service. So is it that superiors are giving us mercy to us by seeing our online situation, or that
No, you could. What?
We also actually services. I must say, there's a feeling that seeing the must come.
Doesn't mean what?
I must say, that in this minute, that in the
Yes, we should see like that. Yes, mercy. Prabhupada would say, he said once to one devotee, when the devotee said, I'm doing this, I'm doing. Prabhupada said, I am doing everything. You're not doing anything. The devotee has to understand, and it's still a fact. Anything any of us are doing, it's only through the mercy of Srila Prabhupada within this ISKCON society. Otherwise, devotee, I have no qualification to do anything. So we know service to the devotees is most beneficial. So we see that Prabhupada would say he would give the opportunity to do some service for himself. So that's, we see like that. He also said, 3 things keep me alive: morning walk, massage, and his Ayurvedic medicine, which he took one pill every other morning. You'll get Draras with some cardamom and honey. That was the Ayurvedic medicine. So he said massage and morning walk was keeping him alive. But that's not that's not the reality. Reality is he is just servant of Krishna, whatever Krishna wanted, and gave us the opportunity to serve. Like even Prabhupada would say, Lord Chaitanya, he could have made the whole world Krishna conscious. Bhaktivinoda Thakur, he was qualified to make the whole world Krishna conscious. His Guru Maharaj could make the whole world. He said, but they left it for us to give us something to do, so we could do some service. So that's how we look at it. Qualification, no, we're being given the opportunity to serve somehow or other in Prabhupada's society. We would say back in the old days, it's like the train's going, right? You know, the train's going here from the tourist station to wherever, Jagannath Puri. You can get on the train or not get on the train. So that's us. Prabhupada saying this Krishna consciousness movement's going to go on for the next 10,000 years. So we have an opportunity to do a little bit of something within that time. It's a gift we have. It's a gift that we're given to do our best to try to help Srila Prabhupada. Whether it's massage, cooking, distributing books, typesetting, whatever it may be, we have the opportunity. And what I've seen over time, because it is the material world, there's no perfection here. Prabhupada said, even this, Prabhupada said, replica Vrindavan is Vrindavan, and it has all the potency of Vrindavan. You come here, you live here, die here, you go back home, back to Godhead. That's the speciality of Vrindavan. But still we can see within this world, it's not a perfect place, huh? We have overrunning sewers, we have this going garbage, so many difficulties. But still, it's Vrindavan in this world. So our business is somehow or other try to do something, to do some service. Then Prabhupada said, you chant your rounds, you follow the regulative principles, Maya cannot touch you. But what I was saying, what I've seen over the years and the decades, it's very easy to find fault in others, find fault in the society, oh, this is going on and this is going on and this. and go away. I think I'm going away because this society is not perfect. When actually, because of your offenses, you're being forced to go away and not have the opportunity to do service within Srila Prabhupada's society. This world is not perfect. Prabhupada said that when someone comes, pure devotees don't come. We're coming to become devotees. We come to the society to become devotee. So we're not perfect. So if we start pointing out this person's wrong, this is wrong, that's wrong, then we're going to fall away. Because Prabhupada saw this person's doing service, this person's doing service. I mentioned Caracas. At the end of one class, one young girl, Venezuelan girl, she had lived in the temple, but she moved out. And she said at the end of class, she raised her hand. She said, Prabhupada, she said, this temple, the devotees living in the temple, they're in Maya. Therefore, I moved out of the temple. And Prabhupada looked at her. He said, you show me the place where there's no Maya. I'll go there. All the devotees laughed. Prabhupada laughed. And then Prabhupada said, I see all the devotees are sincerely serving. He said, because you're in Maya, you see that the devotees are in Maya. So if we see someone's in Maya, Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur said that when you see a fault in others, you have to understand that fault's in yourself. That's why it's visible. Because a devotee, he just sees people serving very nicely. So that's the vision that's required in this society, big society. One has to have that vision. Everyone's serving very nicely. What can I do? How can I help? Then you can make very nice advancement. And you seek association of those who are advanced. That's the key. Association, most important thing. You go someone criticizing, go somewhere else. Unless one is managing, that's his business, is to make everything flow nicely. But if it's not our service, Pankajambi, one of my god sisters, she's told me many times. Sometimes she asks me how things are, and I'll say, and she says, he told me that 3 things. If it's my service to Srila Prabhupada, then all endeavor, I'll try to correct anything that's going wrong. If it's not my service, but I'm in a position where I have influence, then I can use my influence to help fix the problem. If I don't have the service and I don't have any influence, not my business. Hare Krishna. That's our business. So I see it's getting late. I think we need to stop here. Yes. So thank you all very, very much for being here this evening. How many more days are you here? Oh, very good. Okay. All right. And I think some are from Mumbai, and Hyderabad. I'm supposed to go to Hyderabad. Yes. I was in Hyderabad before any of you were born. I was in Hyderabad with Prabhupada 1972. November 1972, I was in Hyderabad with Srila Prabhupada. No temple, no devotees. But Prabhupada went there, and now just see. Wherever he went, temple must be there. That's his power. All right. Srila Prabhupada ki. Hare Krishna. Thank you. Hare Krishna.